What's up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 418. Is that right?
It's right.
Did I get that number right?
Yeah, 418.
Welcome to episode 418. We have a special show tonight because we have the wonderful Devon Yanko joining us on the show to chat a bit about her journey in this last year, the ups, the downs, and the preparation for Javelina 100, which is coming up this weekend. We love having her on the show. She's a fantastic guest. We have a lot to chat about tonight. So sit back, relax, everyone. Ginger Runner Live, episode 418 begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! What's up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 418. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Tuesdays to spend a little bit of it with us. We have an exciting show tonight because we get to welcome back to the show the incredible Devon Yanko. I'm very excited to introduce her here in just a couple of seconds. But we have so much to catch up on because I feel like the last time we had her on the show, she was recovering from injury and just ready to take off again. She'd been on a bit of a break from certain races and stuff like that and healing, and it was really cool to see her trajectory. And then in the last year, she's had some real ups and downs. Won a number of races, set FKTs, but also has been dealing with kind of this ongoing iron deficiency. But it turns out she was diagnosed with lupus, which is a big diagnosis and kind of a life-changing, altering diagnosis, but also one that she is now preparing to toe the line at Javelina 100 with. So we can't wait to find out how Devon is doing all that she is doing. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful show. But before we introduce our guest, there's Kim. There she is. How are you?
Doing well. Hi, everyone. Kim Tashima Newberry here, as always. Of course, we are live. We'll be bringing Devon on in just a moment here. So if you have questions for Devon, just pop into the chat room.
And of course, we like to start the episodes by thanking our GR crews. Because of them that we are able to do these live shows, both the weekly Ginger Runner Live episodes, but also our daily live streams called Daily Brew. Thank you, GR crew. We're very, very appreciative of all of you. If you would like to join the crew and join the book club, the trivia club, our Discord server, our forums, all that stuff, you can head on over to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. All tiers get access to some really amazing things. We have started doing Ginger Runner Live just for GR crew members, and then we post it to the public within 24 hours so everyone can enjoy it. So if you would like to join our live Ginger Runner Live shows, join the crew. Head on over to Patreon. All tiers get access to that. It's a super fun perk. One individual in particular at that top tier we like to thank at the beginning of every Ginger Runner Live episode as well, and that is Mr. Brian Sands. We're very appreciative of Brian's support. He's been a long-time supporter of this channel and many trail running channels. He's a fantastic trail runner himself, and it's kind of cool that we're talking about Javelina. It wasn't the last time we saw him in person, but he did crush many, many miles at Javelina a couple years ago. I did the night run, and he was out there. You were pacing. It was super cool. And there's going to be an amazing GR crew contingent at Javelina this weekend. So that is going to be fun, too. But I think it's time to introduce our wonderful guest. Without further ado, let's welcome to the show the wonderful Devon Yanko.
Yeah.
Hi.
Like nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Nothing. The magic of editing.
It is wonderful to have you back on the show, Devon. Where are you coming to us from? Because last time we talked to you, which is about a year ago, actually.
Was it right before the move?
It was right before the move. I think you were in the midst of transport.
Yeah, we were in Glenwood Springs then.
Yes.
We had moved out, but
that's right.
We live in it's not even a town. There's not even a single store. It's a place called Howard, Colorado, which is right near Salida. So yeah, in the mountains.
You're loving it.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean,
how has training adjusted? Because obviously training in the Bay,
life
adjusted. Because training in the Bay Area and the bakery and everything. I mean, we're just catching up here because it's obviously been a year. But how has things just shifted and adapted? I guess.
It's definitely been a lot different than I had imagined. Because this time last year when we talked to you, we're like, we're gonna take a year off and we're just gonna flint around, and that lasted 2 months. We went from Glenwood and we came up here because we have a little crew of friends, and I had been I've heard I've been to Leadville, which is the other end of the valley, that way. I'm so used to podcasting. I'm like, oh wait, you can see when I do this.
Yeah, right.
Over there. Yeah, there. Leadville's over there. So I had been to like Leadville and BV, but I had never been to Salida. So we came to Salida in December of last year, and we were not planning on living anywhere until about now. And one day, we'd been there for like 3 days, and Nathan and I were like, yeah, so this is it. We're good. Yeah, like, okay. And so we rented a house in town for basically the start of January. So we went from like, we're not going to live anywhere to like moving all our shit in 3 months, basically.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, we're just going to stay here and not get jobs and just hang out. And that lasted 2 weeks, basically. We both got jobs because then we started looking for houses. And so we finally found the house that we bought here in Howard. So Howard's like 10 minutes, depending on how you drive, down Highway 50 from Salida. So we're outside of town. It's a 1,200 person town.
Yeah.
So we got jobs, bought a house, went from having a cat to 40 animals in, about 5 months.
I freaking love this. It's such a change.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we are actually in the process. So Nathan started working at the local bakery here, and we are actually now going into business with that woman and moving into a space, huge space that's like in a historic building downtown. So basically we're like going back into the bakery business pretty much immediately.
Sweet.
But we're in a community that we feel more, I don't want to insult Marin. I love Marin, but like Marin demographics and like lifestyle and finances are slightly different than mine. So it was, it was just kind of always hard to be the help in Marin. And here everybody is more working class and really community based, and Salida is a very small town. So it just feels it's a different kind of thing. So we're hoping to bring like the type of food that we did and bring that to the community here. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it just kind of seems like everything sort of aligns more with kind of your ethos and kind of what you've been wanting, right? Because I think when we had you on that show, that is exactly what you were talking about, was sort of smaller mountain town, just getting out of the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's really funny being where I am now, because you guys being in Seattle, Cle Elum, Washington, and I grew up spending a lot of time in Cle Elum, going to horse camp there. I was like obsessed as a kid with Cle Elum. Like I would look out my windows from Capitol Hill and like look at the mountains and cry every time I had to come home from horse camp. And like where I live now is like kind of as close to Cle Elum as you. It's like so like there's so much about this area that reminds me of that. Like it's a little high deserty, but you're still in the mountains, and like it's just kind of everything that I've wanted. Like people are like, that's really weird to go from the Bay Area to a tiny little town, and I'm like, makes total sense to me. But
yeah, Cle Elum. My sister lives in Cle Elum, and we love visiting. It's such a great. If where you are now compares to that, it is such a great little mountain town that's kind of at the foot of some of the biggest, funnest trails and backcountry out there, right? So that sounds like a perfect place to get your run on and get your training going and everything. The animals.
We have to talk about the animals.
We'll start there.
Because again, going from like one cat living in the Bay Area to watching your Instagram stories and stuff like that now, I'm like, this is an amazing, like
what a transition.
This.
Was that like on purpose, intentional, or was it like accidental? You're farmers now, like you are animal lovers, and
I mean, the property we ended up buying is 2 acres. It has a horse pasture. It has kind of like a barn for animals, we call it the glass house because there was an artist who lived here, and like it was basically a roadside stand. So we have that, and then a main house, and then we have a huge barn, which is actually an Airbnb, and it has a chicken coop, and we have all this space. And so when before we had even moved in, unbeknownst to me, Nathan ordered 40 chickens. and then established the rule that we needed to ask each other before we got more animals. But so we had by the time we moved in, we had adopted Beans, internet famous Beans.
Mhm.
Everybody knows who Beans is if you follow Amelia Boone. So we adopted Beans and then moved in during the snowstorm in May. And like 5 days after we arrived, we had 40 baby chickens living in one of our Airbnb units.
Oh my.
And I mean, it was like, okay, great, we're gonna like hit the ground running, but like there's a lot of projects to be done here because the people who we bought it from had not been doing a lot of maintenance, and like I think one of the owners had been sick, and so like it just kind of went farm project crazy. And so the chickens, we were like, okay, 40 chickens, let's figure it out. And then like all the other animals, it kind of just, I hate to say it happened organically because like, you know, a horse just doesn't show up in your pasture, you know,
Right.
obviously, but like we ended up getting 3 pigs. Also Nathan I was at Hard Rock doing media for I Run Far, and Nathan's like, so if I like get some pigs this weekend, would that be a problem? I was like, well, at least you asked. Like, no, I guess you can figure out where to put them and what to do with them and all of that. So yeah, so the horse is more of like a lifelong dream for me. Like I mentioned, I went to horse camp growing up.
Yep.
When I went to college, when I played basketball in college, I was actually in animal science so that I could become an equine vet, which clearly did not happen because I am not one of those. So we had the setup, like there's a shelter for a horse. Like actually the friend that Nathan had found, this woman who lives in this area, who as a Christmas present, he connected me with her and was like, she doesn't even do lessons, but she agreed under Nathan's convincing to like ride with me because I just needed a mentor. Like I don't need somebody to yell at me like and to ride around an arena. Like that's not my jam. I needed somebody who does like endurance and trail riding, and she actually breeds those kind of horses. So Nathan introduced me to her. So we started riding, and Nathan was like, we're not getting a horse for a year. We're not getting a horse for a year. And then one day she was like, so I have a friend who needs to rehome a horse. And like it just kind of tipped off this process where like that horse didn't end up working out, but then my friend felt really bad and like found what ended up being my horse. And like he's like a perfect horse for me because he's middle-aged like me. So you know, like he's for a horse that means he's 14, but like he's solid, and he's like he wasn't being ridden, and so it was just like a good match for me.
Yeah.
And so getting a horse necessitated companionship because equines are not great alone, but it's a lot of like one horse is a lot. So I was just like, well, he was raised with many horses, and so why not a mini donkey? And so I scoured the internet, and I just like found this guy who actually lived in Oklahoma, who was moving to like just 45 minutes down the road to Kansas City.
Perfect.
And he was like, I have and like met some random stranger on FaceTime off of Craigslist. And was like, okay, I'll buy your baby donkey. And a couple weeks ago, I drove down to their place and put Pepperjack, it's his name. We put Pepperjack in my RAV4 in the back seat and drove him home because that is how tiny he is.
I love this story.
I love Pepperjack.
I love Pepperjack.
Does Pepperjack like their new home?
Yeah, so Pepperjack and Tater Tot. Tater Tot is my horse. That is not what his name was, but like his name was like D'Artagnan, and I'm like, I get it, 3 Musketeers, woohoo, but I was like, we're gonna go with the food theme, Tater Tot. And so they are inseparable. It's actually humorous. Like when I take Tater Tot out to ride, I kid you not, apparently Pepperjack was crying real baby donkey tears while I was gone because he missed Tater Tot so much. Like Nathan was like, I was wiping up baby donkey tears.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Eric Paramount in the chat also says, my in-laws have 2 mini donkeys. They live up to 40 years.
Oh yeah, it's quite, yeah. I think Pepperjack's gonna outlive me. That's for sure.
I'm curious, I mean, having that many animals, is it almost a full-time job in and of itself? Does it take you away from like daily work or training or any of that kind of stuff, or is it just like therapy? Like, this is great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or does it just add to like overall like mental health?
I mean, some of it, but like picking up horse poop 3 times a week, like clearing a field, is like not that much fun. But
you're not like, I love this.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It was 24 degrees out this morning, and I'm out there like feeding them at 5 o'clock in the morning. It is work, but I mean, anybody who has pets, like, I kid you not, Beans is the most needy. Dogs are way harder than most other animals. Like, it just like, at least my horse can poop in the field. Like, I don't have to take him out. Like, people think horses are a significant amount more work, but the reality is, like, on a day-to-day basis, they're not actually. And the nice thing is, like, yeah, it's more work, and I have to, like, between Nathan and I, like, when I leave and he has to go to work at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, that is hard to navigate. But like, when I'm sad, I can just go out and like hug a baby donkey. It's like it kind of, or like go pet the pigs who always like run up to you and are like, I think you have food. That's all animals actually, but
we're also big fans of naming animals after food. Gus, our dog, is named
short for asparagus.
And we have a whole list of what's weird.
I mean, Soup was on the short list of dog names.
Soup is on the short list for dog names. We have a whole list of food dog names. We're ready. We're ready for the food names and animals.
Well, I do want to get another baby mini donkey. So Pepperjack, I can breed. He is not gelded. So my theory is to breed him. So I just need to find him a Jenny, which is a female mini donkey, so that they can breed. And then I really want to name her Nacho. So.
I love everything about this. I don't want to talk about running.
We don't have to talk about running. We really don't.
There's no running involved in this conversation.
I do want to, because you are such, we told this to Devon before the show, and I think our GR crew and I think our listening audience will totally agree. We love having Devon on the show because Devon has this great way of sort of stripping away any sort of like wall that an elite athlete might have. Like, there is definitely a connection that every runner can feel with someone like Devon. She is usually at the front of the pack. But she goes through a lot of things that people go through, and Devon's always been very forward and talks about a lot of that. So this last year, Devon, since we last had you on the show, I remember we were talking about like injury and all sorts of stuff that you were coming back from then. You recently posted a blog post on your blog and also on Instagram just in regards to your journey through this last racing season. And we'll start in January. And it seems like it was a freaking roller coaster for you of like high highs, hey, I'm back, and low lows, like what the fuck. So I'm curious, can you kind of take us through what that was like emotionally in those early months of the year, and especially taking on the DIY that you had of like multiple hundreds in the summer? What was that like?
Oh no,
we lost audio.
Oh no,
damn it. Did anyone touch anything? Did anyone?
My hands are down here.
Devon, can you see us?
Yes.
We're back.
We're back.
Okay, you're back.
What?
Weird. We got you.
Well, I just want to say, apparently I listened to some astrology podcast that my friend told me I should listen to, and today is the day where we're all just super screwed. Like, there was an eclipse, and now Mars is in retrograde, and basically the person on the podcast was like, my takeaway was like, hide in your basement. So that we'll just blame all of that. All of this.
I'm here for that. Okay? We hear you loud and clear, so I'm sorry. Because I'm sure
spooky season.
It's also spooky season.
It could be anything.
Sorry, Devon. I'll let you.
I mean, I also live in the middle of nowhere and use satellite internet. So if anything goes wrong, just blame Elon Musk because he's in charge of my internet. So
let's do it. Easy. And we'll get some good clickable points on that one too. Blame Elon.
Okay, so you're Elon. Yeah. I guess I should have taken it as a sign of things to come when We were in the Front Range. It was Nathan's birthday is January 3rd. And basically his birthday was ruined by the massive wildfires that happened in the Front Range. Our friends Brett and Larissa were evacuated from our house, and like that's what precipitated me missing my first race, because I was like my friends' houses are burning down, like every, it was just like really stressful. And so, but I was like, it's fine, I'll just do what I do. I pivot. And like at a certain point, like I don't know why I didn't just see that I was like getting whiplash from pivoting, but things went, Black Canyon didn't go well. But like I was still running well. Like I won a 50K in January, and then I did Run Through Time, which is a classic local race here. And then I was training really well. And then I ran Umstead and like crushed it, right? I ran a PR, I won the race overall, and like I felt amazing. It was like one of the best days ever. And then coming off of that, that was about the time when we were about to close on the house, and I was in a job situation that was, let's just say, less than ideal.
Yeah.
And like dealing with interpersonal stress, and like it was just a lot. And I had gotten like a blood test, and it was like, you have low iron. And I was like, okay, yeah, I feel that, like all this stuff. But like, I just kind of was like, that's what it is. But so Umstead was the first race of what was supposed to be 500 milers.
Yeah.
And so Kettle Moraine, which is early June, like that race week, I was like, I have COVID. I must have COVID, because like I feel awful, right? And I tested I literally like cleaned out our fire department of tests. Like they were like, how many do you need? I was like, how many you got? And like
all of them.
and so with that, I let the people around me be like, oh, you'll be fine, you always feel this way. And I'm like, I don't always feel like I have COVID before a race, but okay. And I went to that race, and I like the whole time leading up, I was like, I shouldn't be here. There's something wrong. But I kind of let myself be sold on the idea, like, you never know what's going to happen. And so I started the race, and I stopped at mile 7. Like I literally
that soon
don't even run that short in training ever. And to like stop in a race and just be like, this is wrong. Like that was really hard. And I came back, went to all the doctors, and it was kind of like, oh, you just have low iron. But like I have had I've had a lot of issues with autoimmune stuff before. I have Hashimoto's, which is autoimmune condition for your thyroid. I have a in the middle like autoimmune condition of my stomach's, kind of like Crohn's, colitis, somewhere in between there, right? So like I've had all of these issues, and so the doctors were like, we don't know which one it is, but like let's just treat your iron. And so and then one doctor was like, I think you just had COVID. So I kind of like let myself be convinced after Kettle that I just had COVID, like it'll be fine. And I picked up and I trained for High Lonesome, which was the next race, which is the most mountainous race I've ever done. It's here locally. It's an amazing race, but like it starts by going up almost to the top of 14er, like, and I got the training in, but like I never felt good. And on race day, it wasn't like leading up to it again, because I went to Hard Rock and everybody got COVID at Hard Rock. So the entire week I was going, do I have COVID? Do I have COVID? Do I have COVID? And I felt really bad. And then I also had really bad PMS. And so I showed up on race day, and I was like, I started running, and I was like, oh, okay. We're just going to do this without fitness. It's fine. And it was like, in hindsight, it was like laughably, right? Because like, I feel terrible. I have no energy. I'm like walking imperceptible uphills. I don't feel like I can do anything. And then there's this out and back. It's like steep up, steep down, walk through water, go back through the water, steep up, steep down. And by the time I came back, the balls of my feet were completely were just completely blistered and like coming detached. And I was like, so 16 years into a sport and I'm going to have a new experience. And so like,
oh God,
I'm just like, have no energy. I haven't eaten like basically at all for 10 hours. And like my feet feel awful. And I get to mile 50 and I like my crew's there and Sandy, my friend Sandy, gonna crew me. And it's just like, okay, like we're just gonna tape you back up and get you out there. And they're like, I was like, well, maybe I'll just try to go to the next aid station. Sandy is a saint because I basically sobbed uncontrollably for the next 20 miles because my feet hurt so bad.
Yeah.
And then I got them taped up better and like finished really strong. But like, it was not, I mean, I finished 4th, like in a very competitive field in a race that historically people say is not my style. And I'm like, how do you know that? I've never run a race like this, but you know, so like I was super proud to have overcome all of that.
Yeah.
But like, I was like, this is not right. Like how I feel is not right. And
did it like raise more questions than give you answers? Like, was it one of those things that's like, did it put you on a path of like, I need to figure something out here?
Well, it just kind of made me be like, okay, it clearly wasn't COVID back in June, right? Like things are clearly not getting better. Like I feel awful. Like I can run, like I could train, but like I just don't have like my capacity for other things is like so low and I just feel terrible all the time. And I have all these crazy symptoms that like all point to something deeper. And so I went back to my doctor. Basically, I got my iron situation sorted out, like saw a hematologist, blah, blah, blah. Raised my ferritin up and I was like, I feel no different. And so I went back to my doctor. And back in 2020, I had seen a rheumatologist because like I said, this isn't my first rodeo. And he had told me I had something called latent lupus, which basically he was like, congratulations, it's the good kind because it can never progress into regular lupus. So you're totally fine and you're totally safe. And he's like, I could have gone on medication back then, but I was like, he kind of sold it by being like, this could make you go blind. Want to try it? And I was like, I'm gonna go with no.
Yeah. What year was this? Sorry, what year?
2020. So like right before, and the medication turns out to was a big star during COVID, hydroxychloroquine.
Oh boy.
So then I was just laughing the whole time. I could have stocked up and made a fortune. So basically my GP was like, I'm gonna find you a rheumatologist and we're gonna like, but I live, like I said, I live in the middle of nowhere. So this process is like a month or 2 out. I did decide not to, I was supposed to do Leadville and Run Rabbit as part of my slam.
Yep.
And I was just like, okay, I'm not going to do that. I just don't, I started feeling better. Like I said in what I wrote, like I crushed like 2 FKTs. I was feeling good enough, but like some of the symptoms weren't really, they weren't going anywhere. And so I had enough training that I decided to go do Henny-Pin, which was basically the week before my rheumatology appointment.
Okay.
And went into that and I was like, this is going to be amazing. I feel good. Yes, I'm still stressed out, but like, it'll be fine.
And like your fitness felt okay. The FKTs you had under your belt by this point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I ran one of the FKTs at altitude. So it's from Aspen to Glenwood Springs. It's a 42-mile bike path. And I ran that. And at the end, it was like 90 degrees. And I averaged 7:15 pace. And that's mostly above 7,000 feet of elevation, right?
Wow.
So I was like, I think I'm pretty
Yeah,
fit,
you're like, I'm
right?
peaking. This is great.
Yeah. And I mean, I had found this road that was like around 9,000 or 10,000 feet where I've been doing a ton of workouts and I'm like running my sea level paces at like 9,000 feet. So I'm like, I think I'm pretty fit. I think I got this. And like Henny-Pen, I started out and I was feeling really good. Like I ended up running with another woman who like, it was like the most fun 20 miles I've ever had. Like we just talked and had a deep conversation, and she was like, I shouldn't be running this fast. I was like, I shouldn't be running this fast. We're like 7:20 pace. And I was like, who is she? And yeah, but I felt really great. But leading up to that race, I had some pain, like basically in my lungs. And I was like, it's just stress. I'm just holding my breath. But like 30 miles into the run, it basically was like, basically it was like somebody stabbing me under my ribs, like in my lungs.
Oh.
And I slowed down because I was winning the race overall, like the 100. I was like, I got some time, but like nothing I did helped. And it just really didn't feel like anything I've experienced before. And like, I have a blood clot disorder and things like that, where it's like, I just really, and I didn't have any crew or a pacer. Like I had no one there to kind of be like, just walk it in or whatever, you know.
Right. Yep.
Like I was on my own with this like very bad pain, and like, you know, I'm friends with Sandy and Sage, and like Sage had a pulmonary embolism last year. Like I'm not, like, there just kind of came a point where I was like, is it worth it to do this when something could be seriously wrong?
Yeah.
So I came home, and I went to my regular doctor's office and saw another doctor on Monday, and she was like, there's nothing wrong with you, but you should stop running. And I was like, oh. Yeah, she was basically like gaslighted me. I don't know. I was like, wait, if there's nothing wrong with me, why do I need to stop running exactly?
Yeah, sorry, that's not gonna happen.
Like, and she's like, I don't know, we don't know a lot about cramps, but like it's probably nothing, or it was nothing. And I'm like, I literally, by like the next day, the pain, like the day after the race, like I literally thought I was like, I had fallen off my horse. I was like, is this like, did I tear something, or like rip a muscle or something? But like I could like lift, I'm going, did I tear something as I pick up my like 50-pound suitcase? Like, I don't think so, you know?
Pepper Jack on your back, just like, yeah.
I know. I'm like, I think I'm fine. So I went to my rheumatologist appointment, was like the Tuesday after that race. And my GP had already run blood work, because rheumatologists basically won't let you in the door if you don't have blood work. And so I went to this new rheumatologist who was exceedingly chipper. Like, he's like, congratulations, you have lupus. And you're like, what? Wait, I'm like, I know, you know, obviously being in autoimmune world, I know what that means. Yeah. Not everybody knows what that means. But like, he was like, this is what your blood work says. Like, he was just like, I mean, it was like so quick. It was like, he handed me this paperwork that's like, I'm going to put you on these 2 medications, one of which is a chemotherapy drug, and like one's hydroxychloroquine, and like, here's your paperwork. Now I'm going to be a vampire, and I'm going to take all your blood. That's what he said. And I was like, oh God. You are so chipper. You're so chipper. And he's like, yeah, your lungs, it was probably like more like pleurisy, which is like a real thing, obviously. Like that's actually inflammation of the lining around your lungs. So it's not nothing. That's another thing that lupus does, like, because lupus attacks all of your systems. So it can just attack. So basically my body attacked my lungs, and so stopping was the right thing to do. I just happened to pick the right choice at Hennepin.
Right.
But yeah, so that was October 4th. So yeah, it's all kind of been a lot since then, but.
Yeah, Meg in the chat says, I know that pleurisy can come from lupus. I've had it and it's painful. Feels like needles jabbed between your ribs, just stabbing your lungs. So
yeah.
Do you feel a sense of relief with the diagnosis, like being able to label something, or is it frustrating?
I mean, yes and no, because like I am very typical in autoimmune, in chronic illness world, in that like this took many, many years to kind of get right. Like back in 2018, after my foot surgery, I had a really bad flare, and that's when they kind of diagnosed me with other stuff. But like, it takes the average patient 6 to 10 years to get a proper diagnosis. So like, yes, it's like, that's why, like, when he was like, "Yay, you have lupus," like, it's an answer, like, I didn't, like, immediately, like, burst into tears and, like, freak out. I kinda, like, went to brunch by myself, and I was sitting there, and I was like and I, like, couldn't bring myself to text anybody because I knew as soon as I said it out loud that I would, like, freak out in a public place.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm just gonna eat this hash and drink this latte and pretend like everything's fine."
Yeah.
It is nice to have an answer because it is a direction. And I have a good friend who is a health coach, and I've worked with her in the past. And when I told her, she did say congratulations, and I was like, yeah, I'm not quite there.
Not there yet.
Like,
Yeah.
It's nice to have an answer because, like, I have lived in this space where I'm just like, basically feel like it must be all in my head. Like, I feel awful and there's nothing wrong with me. And that's what I have been told throughout my life. Right. So it is nice in that way, but, like, the reality is it would have been nicer to get an answer that had, I don't know, a solution, that wasn't chronic and incurable. Like, that's the part that, like, I think people have a hard time conceptualizing is, like, my life before this is over, right? Like, I don't get to go back to being a healthy person. Like, this is a guiding force in my life, and I don't get to just, like, take a drug and be fine. Like, yes, I can make life adjustments, and I can figure out for myself what helps reduce, like, the impact on my body.
Right.
It is a much better diagnosis now than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the life expectancy of a person with lupus was 5 years.
Wow.
So it's like, I'm better off, right? Like, I'm not like, the likelihood that it progresses to something like that, like, it's just less because we can be more proactive. But, like, it's not like my Hashimoto's where it's like I take a thyroid medication every day and it's 100% managed, totally fine. Like, my thyroid numbers have been stable for 4 years, right?
Yep.
It's not like that. So it just is, it's more complicated.
It's a lot more management, a lot more real-time management. So I'm genuinely curious how that looks from a running perspective. You're towing the line at a race that you've won and you've done incredibly well out in the past. So, like, what does it look like? Is it just these medications and you're able to run at full capacity, or are you still learning?
I mean, I asked my doctor basically the first thing off. I was like, "You're not going to tell me to stop running, are you?" Because I was like, "You can just F right off with that if you are." And he was like, "No." He's like, "Honestly, I think part of it is, like, because I have been running for so long, like, I think that actually really helps me as somebody with lupus because, I was talking with Nathan earlier about this. It's like my capacity is, like, to handle fatigue and suffering and these things is really high, right? So having that going into this diagnosis is helpful. But, like, the reality is where I am in treatment, right? Like, drugs do a piece, but I have also had to kind of change everything about my life. And the thing about lupus is it affects every single patient differently, and every person is, like, gets flares for different reasons. And so it is going to take, I have some friends in the running community who have reached out, who have been super helpful to be like, here's my individual path. And, like, it's so interesting to be like, all of these people with the same disease and none of it looks the same, right? So it's
right.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the process of, like, okay, completely changed my diet. I cut out alcohol. I'm taking crazy chemotherapy drugs. I already had to stop taking the hydroxychloroquine because I tend to react badly to some medications, and it was one of them. So, like, I can't even take the medication that people call lupus life insurance, right? I can't even take that drug.
Wow.
And so it's been trying to navigate that. And, like, I mean, I have an app where every day I have to go through everything that I've done, like, for myself to be like, okay, here's what I ate, here's what I drank, here's how much I slept, here's how stressed out I was, here's how much sun I got, because sun is a huge trigger for some people, like, and trying to figure out and like how stressed out I was, and then being like, and this is how I felt, and here's what my poop looked like, it's like all like everything, and so it just, I can't say, like, my training has been still, it's similar to before Hennypen. Like, it's been great. Like, last week I had some of the best workouts of my life. Today I ran so fast at the track, I was like, I should be running marathons right now. This is ridiculous. Like, I am way too fast to be running 100 miles. But like, that does not mean anything for what happens on race day.
Right.
Because running 100 miles is such a unique stress that I could be fine, right? But because I don't have, like, one of my friends who she was, has been the most helpful. I've cried on her shoulder when, like, I hit my low moments where I was like, I'm not going to take any medication. In fact, I'm not going to change my diet. In fact, I'm going to stop taking all of my medications and screw it. I'll be dead in 5 years and that's fine. Like, that was like that grieving process. But like, she talked to me and she was like, she couldn't even show up at a place like Javelina because of sun sensitivity. And I really, the past says I don't have that problem. Like, I've spent many hours out in the fields, doing work on our property and stuff, like, but the reality is my fitness doesn't really matter. And it's like, and what happens, I'm not really in control of. And I don't really have my arms around the things that can, like, the things that might, like, I have no idea what happened at Hennypen, right? Like, I don't know what caused that. And so it just makes it hard going into a race where I'm like, yeah, like, I could win Javelina, like, based on my fitness. I could also walk for like 60 miles.
Yep.
And my, like, locus of control is very low in, like, which of those scenarios it is. The only reason I am proceeding with doing it is because, like, that feels very important to me to kind of be like, it would be really easy for me to, like, run away and hide, right? But like, and even initially, like, I didn't even want to post on Instagram that I had this because I was like, if I don't tell anybody, I can hide from it. That's great.
Yeah.
And like, putting yourself out there, like, not everybody who is watching Javelina or watching the live stream is going to have any concept of what I'm going through. And like, I have to, make myself vulnerable to that. And like, honestly, it's more important to me to kind of like show up and, like, I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm trying to honor the fact that, like, I still want to be a runner and I still want to see what that looks like. And the body that I'm in now, like, my future might include more races where I am suffering and like having a hard time than winning. Like, that's just my reality. And so I'm trying to embrace that, even though I'm still in kind of like a, like, I'm in the middle of it, right? Like, I'm not like, this isn't like some triumphant return. I'm like, I'm terrified, right? Like, because I don't have control.
Yeah, this is real time learning. And one thing I really appreciate from your blog post as well is talking about the freedom in that and sort of the relinquishing control and understanding. I mean, it feels like you're understanding a new level of Devon where it's like, hey, I had this preconceived notion of what could happen or what would happen, but now I really have to kind of expect the unexpected, and there is freedom in knowing that. And it's I encourage anyone who hasn't read the blog post to read it because it really is freeing to a lot of our mindsets where we do all this training, we have a certain expectation, even if the day kind of goes bad. It's like, what if the day goes really bad and you get 7 miles in and you're like, I got to call it or whatever, but not beating yourself up and kind of understanding things from a different perspective. You guys want to read some of these comments?
Yeah, there's a question from Deb Runs Far, and Deb says, Devon, we're having an unusual cool week, and the weather at Javelina this weekend is going to be amazing. Cheering you on for a fantastic race.
Yeah, Deb is pretty much heading up the whole GR crew contingent that's going to be down there. Deb's a local. She's fantastic. And yeah, it's going to be a cool weekend, which I think is
Yeah.
kind of a surprise, but kind of cool. I think it's going to be great for a
Yeah.
lot of runners. So
I mean, it's like gonna snow up here. It's
Oh, really?
literally supposed to snow. Like when I drive away, like on Thursday, it's supposed to start snowing. I mean, it was 24 degrees when I did my workout this morning.
So what will Javelina look like for you then this year, as far as, you know, how are you going to approach it? Is it really just that, like, hey, whatever happens, happens? And how does that feel different than how Devon would normally approach Javelina?
Well, I think that the reality is, even though I have been unwell for quite some time, you know, and like, no, I have these conditions that are different. Like, the difference is like, I basically now feel like I'm no longer being like, oh, can I like compete against Courtney or Camille on even playing ground? Like, can I just like be free of all these things? Like, I am in my own category. It's like, I literally am in a different space than my competitors. And so it's kind of frees me from that, like at Henny Pen, I showed up and literally everyone was like, you're going to break the course record today. Good job. Like, go get it. Like, you're going to win. And like, now I can just kind of be like, I'm going to go have my own experience, which is actually, I feel like, more of what I wanted to do when I started getting into running, when I didn't know that I was good at it. But like, it releases me from some of that pressure of like, when I'm, you know, like last year I was in the first pack, right? And like, I felt a lot of like, even though I'd been barely running for I had been running for 8 weeks when I ran Javelina last year, right? Like, I was kind of like, the only acceptable thing for me to do is like have a good day. And now I'm like, and I would still give myself grace when I didn't have good days, but internally it was still very hard for me not to go in with this like expectation that I can just, this is where I am supposed to perform. And now it's like, now I'm just going to have an experience and it's for myself. And like, for me, the most important thing is, if I am having a hard time, I don't want to be miserable the whole time. Right. And like, that's a big shift for me, is being like, I am trying to enjoy this, whether it's a good day, a bad day, or whatever, and just expand my experience, so that like, why be like, it's kind of like what I wrote, like, why be miserable? Like, why are you doing this if you're going to be miserable? Like, that's not the point. And so, yeah, I'm still planning on going out at the front. Like, I'm not going to like run afraid of what might happen. I'm going to run according to my fitness, and then I will do the normal things that I would do when things go wrong. But like, I'm also more aware of just being mindful of like the repercussions to my body. And like, if I start feeling in a certain way, you know, like this past weekend, I got exposed to COVID when I asked everybody not to be anywhere near me, since I have no immune system. Like, one of the 3 people I spend any time with ended up having COVID. Like, you know, so it's like, if I feel poorly like I did last weekend, it's being like, this is what's happening right now, and I can't mourn an experience I'm not having. I just have to be present with whatever my body has available on that day. And my hope is, like, part of the reason Javelina is still the race for me, even though I feel like it's a competitive race and it's live streamed and everybody's there. And it's like, that feels very vulnerable. But I also know that like, everybody there really cares about me. And so like, if I even have like a change of outfit for like a bad day outfit, it's like my Hawaiian shirt, you know? So it's like, I feel like I will be the most supported in that experience, if that is the experience that I have. Like, so it's just kind of giving myself the opportunity to kind of have the community have my back, and help me through this experience.
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah.
And really what you're saying, I'm like, Devon's Devon. Devon is still Devon no matter what. It's just maybe some of the circumstances might have changed or will change in the race. But like, I'm still freaking rooting hard for Devon Yanko to go out there and kick so much major ass. And if you have to put on the Hawaiian shirt, You have to put on the Hawaiian shirt, like no big deal. Devon, we're such big fans of you, and I'm again just want to point out how cool it is to have someone who does run at the front of the pack, who sets FKTs, who sets records, who goes to these races and can drop course records like nobody's business.
I mean, Devon's Javelina 2015-ish, I think, is still, like, for me, one of the most iconic women's performances out
Without
there.
a doubt. Without a doubt. And to be so open and vulnerable with everything that you're going through, even at the sort of like initial phase of it, right?
Yes.
Like it's not just, hey, I've been dealing with this for, I mean, you have been dealing with it for years, but with this recent diagnosis kind of coming out and talking about it more openly, it just helps. It just helps people. Like maybe there's one person who's feeling something that maybe now goes to go get like tests done or something, you know?
Maybe your story helps someone advocate for themselves a little bit better or give themselves a little bit of grace. You mentioned like this isn't a triumphant story and I haven't solved the problems or whatever, but I think there's a lot of power in sharing what you're going through. I mean, that goes for everybody, whether it's like a health diagnosis, mental health diagnosis, or whatever. I think the more we talk about these things, it does give power to other people that may be experiencing something kind of in that area too.
You rock, Devon.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And I think what I have also found is that like people with chronic illness feel very misunderstood by people on the outside. And so while like I said to a friend, I was like, God, I don't like want to be like, I don't want to be the face of this. I don't want to like I don't want to like lead the charge. You know, I've done that in the past. And she was like, but that's just who you are, right? Like, and so part of the reason that I am motivated is because I want those people, and I have, by putting my story out there, the number of people that have reached out and been like, oh God, somebody who finally understands or who can like really know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about this. Like that to me is what's really important, is like having that those people feel supported, because they're also there for me. Like the number of people who have reached out to me, like that's what we all need. And like we all want to continue to do this thing, but we also understand that like it is different for us. And so like I want to help bring some, like shine some light there and say like and you know, it's even if it's posting memes like what, you know, I've posted some things where I'm like, I'm not trying to be sassy, but like please don't say I get tired too or something, you know, like it's like just trying to get people to understand that like when somebody says like I am suffering, that like you should listen to them and not just be like, oh, me too. Like, and so whatever it takes, I kind of feel like that's what's motivating me to keep putting it out there and like be honest about it and vulnerable. And so hopefully it helps.
When I opened up about dealing with anxiety my whole life, my first worry was that I would become the poster child for anxiety, and like by making something I'm managing and I've managed my entire life part of my story, I was worried that it was going to be my story. And I feel that a connection to being honest with like public or even just people who might also be dealing with some of those similar things, because the feedback after I was open and honest about that stuff was nothing more than I mean, it was inspiring because there's so many other people. And I totally feel you on, I know how anxiety feels, and like, you know how lupus feels, and I want people to know what it feels like, because it's not just, hey, I'm nervous. You know, it's not just, it's like when I say I have anxiety and someone goes, oh yeah, I feel the same way before a race. Like I get really nervous and like jittery. I'm like, it's like, not that.
Yeah. I think Devon, you posted something about like fatigue versus somebody just being like, oh yeah, I get tired too. Or like, I'm tired too.
Have you tried
like,
naps? You know,
it's not the same thing.
It's not that. It's not the same thing. So I absolutely feel you. And I don't think you're going to be the poster child for lupus, but I think what is going to happen is going to be this really wonderful dialogue. And you are spearheading that conversation. And I'm just very, very happy about it. So thank you, Devon. You are always that kind of person who is like spearheading these conversations and starting
very
dialogues.
Like, no bullshit. Like this is what's going on.
We respect that.
That's why we love us some Devon.
We love us some Devon. So appreciate you. Thank you. And I
love
can't,
you
I
guys.
mean, I hope you don't have to put on the Hawaiian shirt, but now I'm just like curious, like, I bet it's a cool looking Hawaiian shirt.
Well, and I think Heather Reed also mentioned, I know Heather Reed is a big Devon fan. And Heather said, please wear the cat riding a shark shirt at Javelina.
That's the shirt. Yeah.
Oh, it is
I
the shirt.
had that last. Yeah. Oh yeah. I only have one Hawaiian shirt. I'm not bringing my unicorn onesie this time, but
Okay.
yeah. Last year after I dropped out, Corinne and I went back to the night race. So we got to see the end of the 100, and we put on our unicorn onesies, and I put on this Hawaiian shirt that has a cat riding a shark that's vomiting a rainbow through space over my unicorn onesie, and it was the best thing ever. So that is what I'm bringing with me.
I believe Heather actually found and purchased that shirt, and she
Oh, yeah.
wears it. She's a teacher, and she wears
Yeah.
it.
That's
She wears it
amazing.
for students.
I love it.
Yes.
Devin, we're going to wrap up the show here, but I do want to give you a chance to let people know where they can listen to your podcast, go to your website to check out your blog,
If you're
follow you on
taking
Instagram.
coaching clients,
If you're taking clients, like all that stuff, take it away. Where can people find you?
Instagram, Fast Foodie. That's where you get all your baby mini donkey content.
Mhm.
We do have a farm account, so you can find that in my bio. I am taking new coaching clients. So I work with the Chosky Collective, so you can find that. I'm sure you'll do linky things with that.
That's actually how it works. Yeah.
I mean, I'm old. Like I said, I turned 40 and I just lost all my ability to do tech stuff. So my blog is on Substack. You can link it. Just go to Instagram. It's easy.
It's
There's
linked
everything.
in your profile, right? Your blog, it's still linked in your profile.
Yeah. So you can subscribe to that, and then it just appears, and you can read all about my adventures. I'm glad I posted what I posted this week, because I have to take this chemotherapy medication once a week, and every week it has been an experience. 1 week it made me severely depressed. Like, that was the whole, I'm going to quit all this, blah, blah, blah. But this past week, I was writing about the experience of taking chemo medication, and I almost posted it, and I was like, maybe I should wait until I'm not on this medication to post this.
Just
So
to
you
like
can find fun
proofread and
things.
post. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, like make sure I wasn't like really out there, because it makes me feel strange, but not awful. Not as bad as you would think, but
Yeah.
so.
Well, this has been a wonderful show, Devin. We appreciate the conversation, and we can't wait to follow you this weekend. It's going to be fun. You're awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That is going to wrap up our episode of Ginger Runner Live. Thank you, GR crew and live viewers, listeners, podcast listeners, all that good stuff. We appreciate you. Before we go, of course, we like to recognize members of the community who go above and beyond. We call it our GR crew member of the week, Kim. Who is this week's GR crew member?
This week's GR crew member of the week is the one and only Eugene Day. Eugene completed his first Ironman this weekend. So congratulations, Eugene.
Congratulations, Eugene. From a summer where he ran his first 100-miler to the fall where he ran or finished his first Ironman.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Eugene. Happy to have you as a part of the crew. That's it, everyone. We hope you are getting out there, training hard, racing harder, and partying the hardest. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week for more fun. Thanks, all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Ginger Runner.